Hey folks, welcome back to the Lone Pine Tarot, or of course, welcome to the channel if you're brand new here. Thank you so much for joining me today for our pick a card reading on a little bit of a deeper topic. Now, as you can tell by the title you just clicked on, our pick a card reading today is about the next phase of your soul or your spirit's development. So basically, this is kind of like a next chapter reading. We're going to get a little bit of a glimpse in the future, but we are honing in on specifically what is a spiritual lesson, or like kind of like the life lesson that you're supposed to extract from this next chapter, as well as we'll delve into some advice on working through these things at the very end of the reading. So without further ado, let us pick our piles. So we're actually going to tap in with spirit guides today for this specific reading. I thought spirit guides would be the best entity to really talk to. So spirit guides of pile 1, 2, 3. Could you please guide us to the right cards for them to pick? Thank you. The next phase of their spiritual development of their soul. Okay, I'm seeing this for pile 1. We'll reveal it in just a moment. Pile 2. And pile 3, I'm hearing this one. So let's unveil the cards. For pile 1 over here on the left, we have Discernment. Almost kind of a speak, see, and hear no evil message. So pile 1 is Discernment. Pile 2 here in the middle, we have Hope. And last but not least, for our wonderful pile 3 over here on the right, you receive the pile leader of Thought. So quick refresher, pile 1 is Discernment, pile 2 is Hope, and pile 3 over here on the right is Thought. Of course, you're always welcome to pause on this part of the reading if you need more time to decide what pile you would like read for you. If you are new to pick a card readings, I always suggest close your eyes, take a deep breath in, hold for a few seconds, let a cleansing breath out, and then when you open your eyes back up again, see what you're really drawn to first. Like, what is your gut instinct? But whatever your method of choosing, you can drop down to the description box below or the top pinned comment beneath the video. Find the timestamp there for your pile, and I'll see you in our little chat about the next phase of your soul's development. See you there. Hello there, my lovely pile number 1. Welcome today to your pick a card reading on the topic of the next phase of your spiritual development. As you recall, the card that you used to pick your pile today was Discernment. And right off the bat for you, pile 1, what your spirit guides are saying through the action of you being drawn to this card is that one of the major life lessons in this next phase for you is a lot about the way that you interpret things that you hear from other people, things that you see, and things that you just perceive in general. So they're telling me that there's going to be a lot of opportunities for you to really pause and try to glean the truth out of what seems to be first impressions versus longer logical thinking. Because a lot of times in life, pile 1, we can be told something like, say, one friend tells you something about another friend, and you're like, well, is that true, or is that just a lie? Okay. And part of discernment, right, is understanding, to consider the source, to consider the logic behind it, to consider, does this really seem true or not? So it's almost kind of like a shift in your perspective on what truth really is versus first impressions, right? It almost kind of gives me like Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. Actually, the first title was First Impressions, to my understanding. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I think it was First Impressions, because the story of Pride and Prejudice was a lot about that. Was about Mr. Darcy and Elizabeth's impressions of each other, right? You know, she just thought he was a stuck-up, broody jerk, effectively. And, you know, he thought she was just kind of a stubborn, more lowly of class woman, right? And so I almost kind of see that for you in what they're showing me for you, pile 1, in this next phase, is you kind of having a Pride and Prejudice sort of chapter in your life, right? So we'll see how that manifests with your other cards. We have the Mouse and the Buttercup with the number 0, which is basically like the Fool in tarot with innocence. Okay, innocence. So part of these perceptions you might be questioning in this next phase of your spiritual development relates to the innocence of people. So like that example I said earlier of perhaps like one friend telling you something about another friend and you're like, well, is this actually a lie? Is this not a lie? Is this person innocent? Okay. So it's a lot about the intentions of other people too that you will be discerning, it seems like, in this next phase. We'll see. I'll grab some other cards as well. And I think more specifically what I'm hearing for you, pile 1, is a lot of this has to do with something. There's a challenge coming up specifically about something that you hear about someone else. It's almost like you're a fly on the wall and you hear this thing about someone. And the challenge in your spiritual development here from this particular situation is interpreting what that thing you hear really means or what it really is. Like, really considering the source. What are the intentions of what the person who says, or what are the intentions of the person who says it, right? What angle are they trying to get at? How well do they actually know the thing or the person that they're talking about? So that's, once again, like I said, that discernment. And then we have, interesting, uncertainty. Doubtful versus confident. Yeah, so it's like you doubting people, you doubting your own intuition, doubting things that you hear, things that you see. You're like, I'm not so sure. And then moving more into confidence with things. I also hear part of this challenge coming up for you for your life lesson is about... It's almost like there's a situation they're telling me where you're going to be given the opportunity to... It's like, okay, this is how I'll describe it. You're going to get a gut instinct about something. And right off the bat, you're going to doubt your gut instinct. Or at the very least, there'll be a very strong pressure to doubt your gut instinct, either from yourself or from other people being like, oh, I don't really think that's what it means or what that was, right? And this life lesson is leading from that doubt of gut instinct into you realizing, oh, I was right. I should have listened to my gut instinct more. Okay, so it's a little bit of a development of intuition. I would not be surprised if, say, like the High Priestess comes up for you, because the High Priestess in tarot is all about that vibe of trusting your gut, you knowing things deep down, okay? So there's a little bit of a spiritual development in terms of spiritual ability here, too, in the next phase for you, because a lot of when we do or do not trust our intuition is related to how tapped we are into our own abilities and our trust in them, okay? So trusting our own perception, being certain versus uncertain, but at the same time, on the other half of that coin, what we talked about before, which I won't repeat the whole thing, but knowing when your source of information is wrong. I think more so on the external side, like what other people say to you, things that they say to you that aren't necessarily true, okay? Right, and then let's grab the last oracle card. Spirit Guides. Let's grab the Lantern Oracle, which is a fantastic card deck for spiritual growth. Very underrated oracle deck. We have Weeping Wound, number 8. You are not your wounds. Okay, so a little bit of a intense imagery here. We have someone with a literal wound over their heart and looks like blood coming from their eyes. There is a lot of focus on eyes in this reading, pile 1. So not just things that you hear, but I'm also hearing things that you see that are misleading, okay? And realizing the truth about them. Things that maybe you've been uncertain about for a while. And realizing that you can trust your own intuition. Okay. But more specifically, of course, with the meaning of weeping wounds over here. As you know, this is with the tagline, "You are not your wounds." There's also a message about you. I'm trying to think of the best way to word this. They're saying to me that there's a really big burden that you've been carrying on your back for a long time, pile 1. I want to say it's not necessarily a childhood wound, but it has been with you for quite a few years. And there's something about this wound that's still latching to you they're showing it to me almost in like a parasitic way. I don't see it as like a negative entity or anything like that. However, you see spirituality, like it's not like a bad negative force latching onto you, but it is kind of like your own shadow latching onto a little bit with this wound. And part of your next phase of spiritual development is really letting go of that wound through the method of realizing that pained person is not me. I mean, it is you technically, pile 1, but it's the action or the alchemy of disidentifying yourself from the pain that others have inflicted upon you. Like, I know it kind of sounds a little bit vague, so I'll give you more of a tangible example. So for example, like what they're showing me right now is, say you had a bad relationship with somebody, be it, romantic or platonic, like a friend. And perhaps there was some sort of perception that they laid upon you through the way that they treated you. Like, let's say that they, what's a good example? Like, let's say that they told you that you're annoying. Just as an example. It probably doesn't apply to you, pile 1, but we'll use that. And so forever afterwards, even though you might have already kind of let go of that person in your life, there's been a little bit of a wound on your soul of you always thinking, when you interact with new people, being very overly conscious about, am I annoying them? Just because of that one person. Not even realizing, because, going back to discernment again, we have that message again. Just because it was said doesn't mean that it's true. Okay? So that's the thing, considering the source with discernment. And through that discernment, letting go of those wounds away from your identity, like it says, you are not your wounds. Okay? So, like, I know I just used that particular example, but it could be anything, pile 1. It could be, say, someone, treated you like you were not worthy of love. So now you treat yourself like you're not worthy of love. Or, maybe you've had a lot of life lessons revolving around people not treating you with the love that you deserve. And so it's kind of imprinted on your psyche that way. Or it could also be, say, you're a perfectionist because you have a fear of failure because when you were younger, say that you were punished very heavily for any mistakes, things like that. So it might be different depending on your particular life story, pile 1, of everyone who's watching this particular pile. But in any case, another part of this next phase of spiritual development is letting those wounds go, especially when it comes to the way you perceive yourself and the way that you perceive how others see you, okay? Because like I said, there's a lot of emphasis on eyes. We have not only the, it almost looks like I don't know if these are technically geisha, but they are wearing kimono, and like the one covering her eyes in this card in your pile leader, and the eyes here in uncertainty, and then the bleeding eye here in weeping wound. There's a lot about the way you perceive yourself and things, okay? So, a lot of the spiritual development will also be changing your perception of self. Changing the way you identify yourself, the way that you look in the mirror. Who am I? Answering that question and realizing that that's changing because you're letting go of that negative attachment, of that cloak of heaviness and judgment that others have cast upon you in the past. Okay, let's draw your tarot cards too. And I'm getting the feeling, pile 1 too, that part of the message of the Innocence card with the mouse and the buttercup is related to this negative perception you have of yourself based on what someone else like imprinted upon you. in the way of, like, you think that you're guilty of something that you're not. Like, your spirit guides are trying to tell you, no, actually, you're innocent of that. But you think, because of what this other person said, that you're guilty. That's kind of an indicator they're showing me as to what this wound is that they're encouraging you to maybe let go more of, or at least because it's like a wound that gives you a mask or like a goggles on your eyes of how you perceive yourself, right? They want you to let go of that because they want you to feel free. Now we have Justice reversed as the inciting incident card. So Justice reversed is kind of like what it says on the tin. It's about imbalance. It's about injustice. And then we have the Three of Wands reversed, which is feeling like we're unable to make plans for the future. Or I'm sorry, not making plans. Feeling unable to enact on plans for the future. Card number 3, we have the Five of Wands. Conflict is the core card, heart of the matter. Yeah, so I'm seeing this Five of Wands, this conflict card, as a lot about your dealings with other people in this next phase. And thankfully, the Five of Wands is not quite as intense as the Five of Swords, at least the way that I read it. Five of Wands is more about conflict in the way of competitiveness or the battle of egos or wills. Like say you're in a group situation and someone's trying to kind of exert control over everybody else. That's more of like a Five of Wands situation. And then we have the Two of Cups reversed. Yep. So, disharmony in relationships. Yeah, so there's a lot of a social aspect here with everything that we've talked about so far for you, pile 1. So a lot of this next phase of spiritual development is other people, and then we have the Eight of Wands reversed. Okay. Eight of Wands reversed, which is about speed. Things going slower. Slowness. Okay, so yes, expanding on the themes we already talked about, pile 1. As I was saying, yes, there is a lot about your relationships to other people because of the emphasis on relationship type cards. Not only do we have the Two of Cups reversed, which is, like I said, disharmony in relationships, we also have the Five of Wands as the core heart of the matter card. And like I said, that's the battle of egos or will of against people. So, you might almost, because of the Justice card reversed coming up here as your inciting incident card, pile 1, some of this discernment and this innocence message we were talking about earlier, it might even have to be to the point of like, there's like a legal thing coming up. Like this might actually be like a court-related thing where there's a battle of wills and there's kind of a disharmony in a relationship related to it, right? I mean, that could be like, for example, like maybe there is an impending divorce that you kind of already know about, and like so part of the life lessons really stem from this divorce, right? Or it could also be like, say you I'm trying to think of another good example. Like maybe you went into business with somebody and like you have to like legally fight them out of the business because you technically like started it together, but it's like you're both vying for control of the business, something along those lines, pile 1. Or if it's not a court related thing in general, there's been like an injustice served here that in this next phase of spiritual development you're going to try to correct, okay? And a lot of it really depends on your fortitude to battle with your own fire in that Five of Wands conflict of someone trying to take your power away from you and you saying, no, that's unfair. I'm taking the power now and I'm going to do what's just for me. Writing that Justice reversed, okay? Making it go right side up again. And okay, now everything is fair and balanced like it's supposed to be. And let's see. We also have maybe some lessons surrounding the relationships kind of related to that whole situation with that Two of Cups reversed, because I don't read that as just like, you know, a one-on-one partnership type thing, though that's typically how it's interpreted, right? It can also be our relationships kind of like related in a friend group, right? Even though I suppose sometimes that's more the Three of Cups, but personally I read the Two of Cups as just relationships in general, okay, just harmony in them, right? And so maybe it's something that kind of rocks a social friend group a little bit, right? Hence, you know, maybe there's even more than one energy kind of conflicting here in the Five of Wands, and so it's like balancing all of that into what is fair, okay? They're showing me like extinguishing fires. helping fires die down, okay? So it seems like maybe there's been a lot of conflict in your life recently, pile 1, maybe even leading up into the spiritual phase of development. And so a lot of the next chapter is you finally being given the tools by the universe to put those flames out. And like I said, testing your strength and your ability to stand up for yourself in that way, okay? And 2, also just learning to connect more with your own voice in all of what's going on, hearkening back to that discernment message, okay? Because sometimes when there's big conflicts like that, pile 1, we can come across a lot of different voices in kind of a cacophonous echo chamber that keeps drowning out our own voice, right? Other people will always be willing to give you their opinions on things, at least most people are, right? But that's the thing, is that like we know with the lesson of discernment, that doesn't always mean that they're right, okay? Everybody can have an opinion. Doesn't mean it's fact or that it's truth. So it's you sieving truth out of that discernment, right? And keeping going with your own will, with your own power, your own voice, through those times of uncertainty, of other people trying to drown your own voice out with theirs. Or it might just not be like them intending it necessarily. It might be just there's so many voices, so many cooks in the kitchen, right? So many fingers in the pie, whatever metaphor you want to use, that you're like, okay, I just need to focus. I need to focus on what do I need? What's the truth that I can see and I can discern? What makes the most logical sense? What is fair to me? Questions like that, and powering through them, okay? Things like that. Now, as an extension of that, we do have the 3 of Wands reversed here. Like I said when we first pulled it out, that is often about feeling like we're blocked in making movement forward with plans that we have made. Same thing with the 8 of Wands being at the end here as the outcome card reversed. That's about things slowing down. So there's also some spiritual lessons here in the near future about handling obstacles, I guess is probably the best way that I would put it. I think because of everything going on, you might have to put some other things on the back burner. Like, say, maybe you have ambitions for going forward with a certain idea for a business, or you might have ambitions going forward with, like, your career, or, you know, this particular thing. Whatever it is that are, like, your goals and your dreams right now, pile 1. You might have to have a little bit of a time of pausing, or at least slowing down. Doesn't necessarily mean that nothing will happen, right, with those goals and those dreams, but they might have to take a backseat to some more of this social group relationship related stuff in the near future, okay? Because this particular area of your life is more, or chapter I should say, is more important for you to learn these lessons so that they can serve you in the future. And yes, things might kind of slow down a little bit with your ambitions. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be stopped, like I said, or have to be a full pause. It's just like with the 8 of Wands reversed, it's just a little bit of a slowdown. Things are slowing down. They're not as fast as they were. And maybe that's even kind of a blessing to you, pile 1, because maybe things have just been going like jet speed ahead, and you would maybe not mind a little bit of a slowdown or a pause, okay? But in either case, like I said, your spirit guides are telling me that, yeah, you might get a little bit impatient or frustrated with things getting kind of blocked a little bit with those obstacles, right? Things slowing down. But like I said earlier, it's for a good reason, because you're learning more about, like, the discernment message we talked about. I won't repeat the whole thing and go ad nauseum with it, but and then, yeah, like the relationship stuff, and then also that internal work on disattaching your view of yourself from your wounds and the wounds that other people have inflicted upon you, okay? So, things like that. Now, to finalize the reading, let us draw 3 cards of advice for you in this next phase of spiritual development. Also, you probably hear fireworks in the background. I'm actually recording this on New Year's Eve, so Happy New Year, everybody. That is why you hear fireworks in the background. People are having quite a party. So your advice is the 7 of Pentacles reversed, okay? Planting seeds for the future. Then we have the Knight of Wands reversed, okay? Taking action with our passions. And then we have the 3 of Swords reversed, okay? So your advice here in the near future with this phase of spiritual development, pile 1. Even if things slowed down, like we predicted earlier with the 2 cards of the 3 of Wands reversed with the 8 of Wands reversed, okay? Keep planting seeds and dreaming for the future, because oftentimes what gets us through times of conflict is our hope for the future. Okay, it's the light at the end of the tunnel of, say things may go wrong a little bit, like say you do have like a legal battle going on and it's just really frustrating. Keep focusing on what is my end goal after this obstacle, and that will kind of help you get through the tough times, right? Keep planting seeds for the future, as the Seven of Pentacles says. And then we have the Knight of Wands reversed, which is kind of a similar message. It's a lot about taking action with our passions, or needing to more because of the reversal. Okay. Keep trying, even if it slows down, to go full speed ahead with your passions. Okay. With the things that you really want. Your ambitions probably is a better word to use with the wand suit. Okay. 2, it can also be an indication to take action when it comes to these potential conflicts that come up. Take action with your own personal willpower in mind. Like I said earlier, there might be a little bit of an inclination for people to kind of try to overpower others or overpower you, or like taking your power away. And it's like a Knight of Wands is someone who takes action with their own confidence and charisma and willpower in mind. Okay. So don't just let people walk all over you. Be like, no, I am firm. I'm doing what I'm doing. This is what I'm passionate about. This is what I believe. Go forward with confidence, okay? And then last but not least, we have the Three of Swords reversed, which almost kind of harkens back to that wound we talked about. The Three of Swords reversed is about overcoming pain, okay? Think of this time of spiritual development as a time of recovery from wounds that were inflicted upon you. Like I said, with the wounds, it's like disattaching yourself from that negative view of yourself from wounds inflicted upon you by others, okay? Really focus on self-soothing. Focus on being gentle on yourself, especially. Focus on, with your meditations or your other spiritual practices, on healing the soul. I'm hearing a lot about the heart chakra too, so maybe doing some exercises related to healing the heart chakra a little bit, okay? Because of all that's going on at this time and all that you're kind of processing. So to really summarize everything, pile 1, this particular next phase of your development is a lot about healing, A, and B, processing both the past and your present, if I had to summarize it all in like one sentence, okay? So be discerning, focus on this healing, be easy on yourself, like I said, go forward with confidence, stand in your power. You have the right to stand up for yourself. You have the right to go for what you want with your hopes and your ambitions, right? Try to disattach from negative views of yourself that were impressed upon you by others. That's another thing we discussed. And keep looking towards the future even when times get tough. That's really important because they want you to keep your hope and your spirit alive, even if things are getting a bit difficult because of, say, these interpersonal conflicts we talked about earlier. Okay. So, yeah, a little bit of I want to call it like a time of eating your vegetables spiritually, okay? But it will pay off in the end, pile 1, they're saying. This is very important to your future. So these lessons are kind of like tools that they're giving you to carry on into helping you walk forward in life after this phase, okay? Very, very, very good for you, okay? So I will leave you with that for your reading today, my wonderful pile 1. Thank you so much for tuning in. If the reading, if you liked it and if it resonated, please like and comment and subscribe to the channel if you have not done so yet. That just helps me out a little bit, which helps me provide more readings for both you and others in the future. And as is tradition on the channel, I wish you a wonderful rest of your day, and I hope to see you in the next reading. Bye, pile 1. Hello there, my lovely pile number 2. Welcome today to your pick a card reading about the next phase of your spiritual development. As you recall, the card used to pick your pile today was Hope. So we have a figure here with, very gorgeous long hair who is sitting and almost looking like she's praying for something. She wants something to manifest. And you probably can't see this on camera, but back here, the ornaments in the tree have different words on them, and I'll read them for you. They say joy. It looks like curiosity, peace, purity, temperance, and truth. Okay. So it seems like, at least from this first card that you were drawn to, your spirit guides are saying this next phase of spiritual development is a lot about the things that you wish for. Okay. So perhaps working on a goal or a dream of yours. Maybe contending with the disappointments of hopes or dreams not attained. Things like that. Let's draw some more cards, though, to get more details. Because your hopes and your dreams can mean many different things, right, Pile 2? So let's see what they have to say. So Spirit Guides for Pile 2, please draw forward the right cards. Your next phase of spiritual development. Also, just ahead of time, you might hear fireworks in the background. I am recording this actually on New Year's Eve, so if you hear fireworks, that's why. A lot of booms. We have, oh, interesting, the Boar and Pumpkin with confidence. I don't think I've ever had this card actually come up in one of my readings before, but it's very cute. The Boar and the Pumpkin with confidence. Okay, so another part of your spiritual phase here coming up, Pile 2, is about being confident. I would not be surprised if you get any Wands cards today, especially from the Court suit of Wands. Being confident in oneself. Okay, so it almost seems like what I'm hearing is that part of the hope message lesson is more about your hope or being confident with your hopes and your dreams. I wonder if there might be a little bit of a hesitation on your part for going after something that you hope or you wish for. That I'm also hearing something about something that doesn't come to fruition as quickly as you expect or that you want, but keeping up your confidence in your ability despite that. So it's almost kind of like, have you ever like really reached for something in life and you think it rides solely on your own ability or your own skills? And so when it doesn't come to you, Pile 2, you start to doubt your own worth or your own skills, your own confidence in things. So it seems like there's something coming up with one of your hopes or dreams where you'll have to keep your hope and your confidence afloat when it doesn't immediately come to you or come to you as fast or in the way that you expect. Okay. And 2, I'm just drawn to the imagery of the pumpkin, because as we all know, pumpkins are very autumn-associated plants, right? You harvest them right in around August, October, right? And, we associate them with the harvest, okay, with Halloween, of course, things like that. And so it seems like, too, maybe there's something that is going to start that will come to fruition in the next October from the time that you view this reading. But in general, too, with the imagery of the pumpkin of being the harvest, okay, it's like a slow growth of something. Like that hope or that dream that might take a little bit longer to come to fruition than you were expecting, okay? Like growing like a pumpkin. Pumpkins take time, okay? They require a lot of water. A lot of grow time, a lot of sunlight, too. Things like that. And a lot of protection, I've learned. I've grown pumpkins myself, and I've learned they're not easy to grow, so. But they're very, very worth it in the end, right, Pile 2? Because then you get delicious pumpkin seeds, you get pumpkin puree, you can make pie out of it, you get cute Halloween decorations, things like that. Then we have, oh, interesting, Pile 1 had this as well. Maybe this is kind of a collective thing going on with our community soul circle. Fascinating. They have the exact same card. So Weeping Wound, number 8. You are not your wounds. And I will tell you the same exact thing I told Pile 1 with this Pile 2. This card is all about not identifying yourself with your wounds. This card is all about shrugging off the cloak or the mask or the view of yourself that other people have thrust upon you. That isn't true. Okay. So I'll give you pretty much the same example I gave Pile 1 with this. So part of your spiritual development in the next phase seems to be like, say, just for an example, you had a situation where you had someone that you were friends with or you were in a relationship with, and you got in a fight and they called you, say, like, annoying. Okay. And so that was a wound inflicted upon your heart very deeply. And from that point on, just in this example, every time you interacted with a new person or you got in a new relationship with somebody romantically, you overanalyzed and over-worried about oh my God, am I annoying somebody? Am I annoying them? Like, you know how sometimes you get in those situations where like someone tells you something that's really cruel about yourself and you believe it, so you carry it with you into every interaction you have with other people afterwards. What your spirit guides are telling me with this card, like we told pile 1, is this next phase of spiritual development is letting those bad perceptions of yourself go. Okay? And they're saying specifically for you, pile 1, or sorry, I called you pile 1, you're pile 2. I think you had the same card, right? For you specifically, pile 2, the wound that was cast upon you, that they're asking you to let go of, was something that was said out of anger. And that's why they don't want you to believe it or associate or identify yourself with it anymore. Because a lot of times when people say things out of anger, they don't actually mean what they say. Or even if they do, it doesn't mean it's the objective truth. Right, pile 2? Like, I'm sure you have an example you can draw upon of someone saying something to you in the past that was like, you know, for some reason, the one coming to mind is like, oh, you smell, but that's like a really like 5-year-old insult. So like, you know what I mean? And like you do instantly when they said, oh, that's not true. I don't smell. I bathe. I wear perfume. I wear deodorant, things like that. It's kind of what your spirit guides are saying to me is like, why do you believe this thing that this person said to you? Like, it's just as silly as a 5-year-old telling you, oh, you smell. Because it's just like, it's not the 5-year-old actually telling the truth. It's like them just going on a tantrum and finding anything that they can insult you about, right? Is almost kind of how you should view the person that wounded you in that way. Like, think of them as a 5-year-old or maybe 2 or 3. That's usually when they have temper tantrums, right? The terrible 2s, the terrible 3s. Think of them as like a 2 or a 3-year-old just having a tantrum. Like, why would you believe anything that came out of that person's mouth? But that's the sad thing, pile 2, is that we do believe things like that, right? You know, especially when they're said to us by people that we love, you know, or people that we respect, people that we thought had our best intentions at heart, but then we realize, oh, they just stabbed me kind of verbally, and, well, oh, I dropped a card. They don't have the best intentions for me. But that's the thing, is at the time, because we trust them and because we love them, we respect what they say. And unfortunately, sometimes that's a mistake in the way of it wasn't true. And we don't have to carry that burden of that lie anymore about the way we perceive ourselves. Sorry, I'm going to go under my desk and grab a card that fell down. Let's see what card this was. And actually, that's the one I'm going to take for you because everything has a reason. So, gratitude was the card that fell onto the floor. We have ungrateful versus appreciative. Okay, so this is almost a reflection I'm hearing of that lesson we talked about earlier with you maybe having to wait a little bit longer for something to come to fruition, pile 2. And what I'm hearing is it's about the way that you appreciate the pauses between. What you appreciate about the journey rather than the destination of something. Okay. Say, for example, you have a hope or a dream to open a bakery. That's just what's coming to mind right now. And you're so invested in the making sure of, you know, like, is the branding right? Is my menu for my baking items right? Or your offerings, I guess I should say. You know, are my prices right? Did I make sure that, you know, all my cost of goods are set up and my taxes and blah, 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 all that stuff. But sometimes when we get so lost in those details, we forget the way that we're supposed to appreciate the actual thing that we went after this hope or dream for in the first place, which with the bakery example, right, pile 2, is I really enjoy the process of making baked goods. I like the science of baked goods. I like decorating things and making them pretty things to eat, right? Or it could be, you know, I really like making someone's day with a baked good because I personally, my day is always better when I have a cookie, right? Or something like that, or a really pretty cake or pretty wedding cake, things like that. You know, I won't get too far in the details, but just from that example. So it's like this part of your spiritual development is focusing less on the finish line of your hopes and your dreams and appreciating the journey along the way, especially I'm hearing in the small moments. Okay. So whatever it is that you're seeking in terms of your ambitions in this next spiritual phase, pile 2. Remember in the moments that you're doing it, what you got into it in the first place for. Okay? And that will help you with that message of gratitude and appreciation, what I'm hearing. Let's see. Anything else I want to make sure before we draw your tarot cards? Being appreciative for the path, yeah. Also, too, I'm hearing that's something to do with that wound lesson that we discussed, with you disattaching yourself from the perception of the wounds other people cast upon you. Where you need to learn to appreciate yourself more, is what they're telling me. Especially in the way of you appreciating what you endured with the pain of that wound more. Not in the way of being happy that you were inflicted with the wound. Of course, that's never fun. No one wants wounds, right? But in the way that you pat yourself on the back for being as tough as you have been. Okay? Being as hard on yourself as you have been. Okay? Yeah, they're saying something about scars. Scars. The song, there's actually a song coming up here, pile 2. I think I will put it in the link with your timestamp, I promise, but I think it's called Scars to Your Beautiful by, is it Alessia Cara? I'll put a link down in the description for it for you, or the timestamp from the pinned comment. But yeah, there's something about that song you need to listen to. Scars to Your Beautiful. I think that's what it's called. I'll put it down there. That's where Scars was coming from. It was a song. Okay, so let's draw your tarot cards, pile 2. So we have a lot about enjoying the journey, your ambitions, things taking time to come to fruition, your wounds. Let's see what else pops out with tarot. Beautiful. We have 2 that already came out. We'll make sure that they're in the right order. So this was the first one. We have the Sun reversed. Okay, so something about a sadness or a lack of truth or clarity in some way. We'll see what else pops out. Which is interesting because truth was one of the ornaments on the tree of your hope card. We have the Page of Pentacles. Yep, exploring something to do with career or finances. So it seems like part of this spiritual development is, I think your hope or dream is something to do with your career here, pile 2. I mean, maybe some of you are actually opening a bakery. I'm not sure, but we have strength. Beautiful. Strength is our willpower. It's also the heart of the matter, or the core of the spiritual phase for you. Yep, our willpower, our confidence, our actual literal strength sometimes. We have the Wheel of Fortune. Beautiful. So some good tidings. And then we have the Hanged Man. Oh boy, you have a lot of major arcana, pile 2. And what I want to tell you, I always say this in my readings, is whenever there's a lot of major arcana in a spread for someone that I'm reading for, I tend to interpret that as this reading is about life lessons, right? But there's a lot of really important life lessons in this next phase of spiritual development for you because of all the major arcana that have popped out. Okay, you have the Sun, Strength, Wheel of Fortune, Hanged Man. You literally only have one that's minor arcana, which is that Page of Pentacles. So, yeah, seeing everything here. Let's interpret. I'm also going to just pause to take a drink for my voice. Truth. There's something about you trying to gain clarity on something here in this next phase. And I think it being next to the Page of Pentacles here for you, pile 2, excuse me, is you trying to gain clarity on something to do with, yeah, like we were saying, like exploring career. So it seems like part of those hopes and dreams message here is almost more about you identifying really what is the path for your hopes and your dream regarding your career or finances. And you gathering more information and learning a lot about it. So it's almost like you're prepping for something. And right now it's a little bit obscured as to how you're going to go about it. And I'm hearing part of the spiritual development is not focusing so much on the end goal, like we were talking about before, but also in the way of making sure that you just enjoy the little steps along the way. I know I kind of repeated that earlier, but it's like the same message, but a little bit differentiated in the way of not just enjoying, like, oh, what did I initially get into this for, was the question I had you ask yourself before, but also in the way of, they're saying it's like in the way of enjoying the power and the confidence, harkening back to the strength card, that it took you to take every step along this path towards this hope or this dream. Because a lot of times when we embark on something new, we focus on how afraid we are. We focus on the feeling of the falling off of that cliff of fear of, oh God, this is new. Oh God, where am I going to land? Things like that. But what we don't realize and pat ourselves on the back for enough, pile 2, is the strength it took to take that leap in the first place. Okay. Especially when things are unclear, as is indicated by the sun reversed, is like a lack of clarity, right? A lack of light on something. So not only are you taking a leap into something that will take a lot of courage, hence the strength card, it's something that you're taking a leap into, not even knowing everything that you possibly might need to know or that you want to know before you take this leap. And your spirit guides are saying you need to appreciate that courage that it takes you more. Okay? Appreciate more being gracious or grateful for your own willpower and powering through when things are foggy or dark. Okay? Because they keep saying, it's very strange. They keep saying, you're bold. They keep repeating that. You're bold. Like almost in the way that someone would say to you if you say, oh, I'm going to do this crazy thing. And then someone else might be like, oh, well, you're bold. Like kind of in that manner, right, pile 2? But of course your spirit guides mean it in a positive way. And the good news is, pile 2, is you have the turn of fortune with the wheel of fortune here upright. This next phase of your spiritual development is going to be beautiful in terms of luck and fortune. All right? It's going to be fantastic for those hopes and those dreams that you're searching for. Okay? So I think they sent that to you, I'm hearing, more so to kind of encourage you to be like, to understand like, yes, it's going to work out. It's going to be great. You're going to have a good turn of fortune. This is very positive, right? So that you can take away your focus more away from the, oh God, is it going to work out question into that appreciation of the step along the way type thing we talked about before, that we repeated a little bit. And then at the very end here, we have the Hanged Man, which is looking at things from a different perspective. So there's a lot about perspective shifts too here with this next phase of spiritual development for you, pile 2. Not only the shift of perspective on yourself, away from the masks the wounds that other people have inflicted upon you that we talked about before. So seeing yourself in a new way. Not just in your pain, in your wounds, but also in your ability to manifest your dreams. Okay? So maybe you've struggled a lot in life so far with self-doubt, thinking you're not strong enough. And it's like this is finally a triumph of your soul in this next phase. What's the best way to put it? A triumph in your soul of success with something that you've been wanting for a long, long time. And your spirit guides are really patting you on the back for this, even though you might not have technically started yet, or you're not done yet, technically. They kind of see time in a different way than we do, of course. They have a little bit of a different perspective than we do, right? Speaking of perspectives, the Hangman. But yeah, it's just like a blossoming of that outcome you've been looking for. But once again, they're reminding you, don't focus so much on everything turning out okay. Focus on the pride that you can have for your willingness to try. for your bravery, as we said before. Okay, things like that. And also, I'm hearing part of this next phase of spiritual development is a lot about tying your moral or your spiritual values with this thing that you're seeking, you're exploring in terms of career and finances here with that Page of Pentacles. Okay. So maybe you were coming from a place before where your hopes and your dreams weren't so aligned with your spiritual values, and now it's like you're shifting more into something that's more soul aligned, which is another thing to pat yourself on the back for, they're saying, pile 2. Tuning in more with your soul. Let's see if there's anything else here. Make sure I'm not missing anything for you. But they are saying, just as a final message here, from at least this spread, I will draw some advice cards as well, that the pumpkin or the harvest will be worth it. They're pointing back to the pumpkin here. The harvest will be worth it, even if it takes longer. So let's get some final advice cards from your spirit guides on this phase of spiritual development. What would they tell you in terms of advice? 3 cards, please. Thank you. We have, first up, the Ace of Cups. Embrace new relationships. Embrace new feelings. We have the 7 of Swords. Okay, maybe something being a little deceptive. That's very interesting. And then we have the Hermit, another major arcana. Okay, so pile 2, in terms of your advice for working through all of this, right? There is an aspect of embracing new relationships with it, as we said when we first pulled the Ace of Cups out. Okay, so it almost seems to me that there might be someone entering your life that is going to help you through a lot of these things. It could be a friend, could be an actual romantic partner. It could be like maybe someone that you is like in your family that you haven't talked to in a while and they kind of come back. It's some element of newness in a relationship, okay? And there's someone who's going to like point things out to you, I'm hearing. Especially with the 7 of Swords here, which is deception or trickery in a way. But I almost see this as like a self-deception with the wound thing that we were talking about before, like you viewing yourself in the way others have wounded you, but it's not the actual truth, right? They're just 2-year-olds throwing a tantrum, right? Saying, oh, you smell. Things like that. It's like this person is, like, they're encouraging you as advice to lean on this person to help point out the deception. There's someone who has like a very piercing insight into things, of helping you see from those different perspectives, okay? I'm also hearing that they might be someone who's a bit introverted because of the Hermit. But in general, too, the Hermit is advice to go within a little bit. So this might be a little bit more of a piece of advice to not necessarily be less social, pile 2, but to introspect a little bit more. Give yourself more quiet time to really meditate, to really think about things, even if it's just 5 minutes before bed. Really reflect on, what am I proud of myself for today? Okay, what did I do today that was scary, but I did it anyways? Questions like that, things like that. And spending maybe more like one-on-one time with this person could be another interpretation of the Ace of Cups next with the Hermit as part of the advice that's coming in, this person coming in. And really, really, really think about the perceptions of yourself that are deceptive. That 7 of Swords, okay? There seems to be something major about yourself that you're not perceiving in the right way. I think tied to that wound we were talking about, okay? So that's their advice for you for this next phase. New relationship, introspection, leaning on this person a little bit to help you through these things. Maybe they're even a part of that hope or goal or dream. Maybe they're like a business partner, or they're someone you meet at work, things like that. And beware of self-deception. All right. So that is what I'll leave you with today, my wonderful pile 2. If you liked the reading and if it resonated, please like and comment and subscribe to the channel if you've not done so yet. That just helps me out a little bit, which helps me provide more readings for both you and others in the future. And as is custom, our tradition on the channel, I wish you a wonderful rest of your day. And I hope to see you in the next reading, pile 2. Bye. Hello there, my lovely pile number 3. Welcome today to your pick a card reading about the next phase of your spiritual development. As you recall, the card you used to pick your pile today was Thought. So we have a figure who is looking down. She seems quite contemplative, thinking about something very deeply. Okay. So, kind of what it says on the tin, the first message coming out from your spirit guides about this next phase of development. It seems to be there's going to be a lot of thinking to be done. Okay. So let's derive some more details on that, though, because that's kind of vague, right? So spirit guides coming out for pile 3 today. Could you please provide us with the right cards to explain more about what are they thinking more deeply about here in this next phase? Pile 3, it's either a hobby that you do or it's your job. It requires a lot of thought, and I have a feeling there's going to be a breakthrough. I don't know if you're like a scientist or if you are engineering, STEM something, or it's some kind of job or hobby that you do where it's like it requires a lot of logical thinking and you get like breakthroughs from time to time. That's kind of why I was drawn to thinking about science. You're going to have a major breakthrough of realizing something. So for those of you in the scientific fields, I think you're going to discover something that maybe has been eluding you for a while. Or in general, whatever this is, it's like you're going to discover what it was. You have the raccoon and the sycamore. Very interesting, which is curiosity, which is, once again, makes me think of someone who's a deep thinker, someone who really explores things with an open mind. Okay, so there's a lot of exploration here in this next phase of life, of spiritual development for you. Just like we always think of raccoons as, creatures that always know how to try to pry things open, be it, garbage cans to get food, right? Or bird feeders to get food, climbing on things, really winding their way around and being open-minded to the possibilities of things. And so that just once again harkens to that idea of you having a breakthrough of some sort, okay? With either your job or a hobby that you're in. Very interesting. I want to know what that is. We'll see if we can glean more details here with the other cards. Especially for those of you in the scientific fields. Anyone that's publishing papers at all, too, if you're in the scientific fields, I feel like there's a paper that's going to be received very well. I'm not personally too familiar with how all that works and recognition works in the scientific fields, as that was not my study in college, but for those of you publishing papers, there's something good coming out. We have, Melting Mask, number 16. Allow your spirit self to shine through the many roles you fulfill. Okay. So pile 3, a lot of this next phase of spiritual development as well is as well about really tying what you do in your day-to-day life, who you are, every mask that you wear, be it, parent, family member, insert job title here, person who does this hobby, whatever mask that you wear, roles that you fulfill, tying more of who you are deep down to the things that you do, the way that you appear to others, and being more truthful and honest about your inner self, especially when it comes to your spirituality or like your morality. What you really think deep down, letting that shine past the mask. Okay. So that doesn't necessarily mean that you hide that a lot now, pile 3, but even more so in this next phase of spiritual development, it's like unveiling a little bit more of your masks with other people. Okay. Like a good question to ask yourself is, who is the true me underneath the way that I appear to others? Okay. So maybe at work, say that you are a scientist, for example. You're Miss or Mr. super logical, very dedicated, very focused on thinking deeply, but then you come home and you're a parent. And so that mask you wear is more about nurturing and loving and being more on the emotional side of things with your child. Say if you are a parent, just for an example. But who are you in a way that shines through every single role that you fulfill? Okay. And letting that shine out even more. Okay. Very interesting. Let's see what else pops out. I'm also hearing, too, in terms of your achievements here in the next few months with the spiritual phase, pile 3. There's something you're going to be individually recognized for, too. You're not just going to fade into the background. You're going to be prominent in something. Interesting. See what else pops out. A lot of good messages here. Ooh, we have unveiling. Where I was just talking about, I was like, I feel like you're going to be taking off masks and you're going to be a little bit more prominent. You're going to not just be in the background. You're going to stand out for something. Unveiling, clouded versus radiant. Okay, we literally have, it's almost like an eclipse here in this particular image. The shadow unveiling from her face, showing who she is underneath the darkness here. Just like we see once the shadow of the earth falls off the moon when the lunar eclipse is finished. So pile 3. Really focus on, in this next phase of development, on... I already said it, so I don't want to repeat too much, but it's kind of like the melting mask message of being more honest about who you are. So I won't repeat that too much, but... And 2, when it comes to that truth and that thought and that curiosity we were talking about here with these other cards, it's like you also unveiling truths in a way. I really think there's something you're going to figure out in this next phase of your life, pile 3, that's really important to your spiritual development in terms of like a discovery about the world, or like, I keep hearing like a eureka moment or a light bulb moment of some sort. And what that does is that paves the way for you shining more of your light of who you are as a person out to the world, rather than that fading into the background thing or hiding behind those masks thing I was talking about earlier. Yeah. Like you as a specific person and your specific vibration shining out more because of your dedication to curiosity and finding truth. Very interesting. So let's draw your tarot cards as well here. What's going on? Next phase of spiritual development. Also, I'm hearing it would be a great time for you to take up new hobbies you've wanted to start. And then we have, okay, so 2 of Swords reversed is inability to make a choice. Okay, so it seems like pile 3 that maybe you've been having struggles recently with making a choice of some sort, maybe a major choice in your life. Maybe that's what a lot of this thought has revolved around. And so part of this next phase of spiritual development is you finally making that choice, struggling with it. It's not going to be necessarily the easiest choice to make, but the growth lies in you figuring out what the choice you want to make is. And then we have the 4 of Wands, which is about celebration or the home. Okay, so perhaps the choice is surrounding your home. Maybe you're deciding to move, or you're trying to figure out all the logistics around moving, things like that. Or making choices for your home. Maybe there's like a major investment you want to make in your home, say like a remodeling. Or maybe there's something you're like, I'm not sure what I want to do with like changing the color of this room or that room. And 2, with the 4 of Wands being a card of celebration, it's like making a choice with... It's very odd. I'm hearing a specific message about you making a choice between what to celebrate. I'm trying to think of tangible examples of that, pile 3. I'm almost hearing there's like some situation gonna pop up where you're going to be invited to celebrate something about yourself, but there's like a conflict with you wanting to go to another event. I'll see if I can glean more about that, but there's a life lesson related to that. I don't know if you're going to have like a celebration dinner, or it's like you're going to graduate and you're going to achieve, and there's going to be like a grad party, or like a something along those lines. It's something to do with a celebration of an achievement of yours, pile 3. Maybe even related to that paper or that scientific thing I was talking about earlier for some of you, right? And so you're going to have like a choice around that. There's a life lesson around that. And then we have the Magician reversed, which is about manifesting things or having the tools we need to manifest things, or at least with it being reversed, it's like a struggle around that. So maybe scraping together the tools you need to accomplish something. We have the Page of Pentacles, which is exploring more around our career or our job or finances. Okay, so a little bit of a career focus too. And last but not least, we have another Pentacles, which is the Two of Pentacles, which is all about balancing our finances, juggling many different things at once. We see someone standing on their one foot trying to balance the two pentacles. Okay. On a very precarious looking kind of platform there. You might not be able to see that on camera, but it's pretty precarious, right? So, pile 3. We already talked about the choice and the Four of Wands with the Two of Swords, Four of Wands over here. Another part of your spiritual development in the next phase is regarding the way that you gather resources for things, okay? You're going to have to be a little clever. And I think that's where the curiosity comes in here too. You're going to have to be a little bit clever about the way you try to manifest something that you're seeking, okay? And it's something that's really going to draw on your ability to explore either career options or things in your career that you maybe necessarily wouldn't have pursued those avenues before. Like I'm hearing, for example, say, you know, if you're trying to gain funding for something, and normally you go to one particular like donor or customer, it kind of just depends on your job, I suppose. But for some reason, they're saying something about funding. And you get denied for funding for something in this area, and you're like, oh crap. So you go to an avenue that you don't normally go to get funding for something, okay? Or like, yeah, maybe like a scholarship is another good example. And so you go over this way, and you're like, oh, I would never think to look over here for a scholarship or funding, but there it is, through the ingenuity of you being curious, being open-minded to the possibilities, like we said earlier, and learning to be resourceful that way, looking outside of the box for tools to manifest what we're looking for within our career or our education, our jobs, things like that, okay? Yeah. And just exploring more about your career in general with this next phase of spiritual development. Okay. Maybe even related to that melting mask of like showing who your true self is more through the actions or like the roles that you fulfill, especially when it comes to your job, right? And then the Two of Pentacles, very interesting. Balancing finances, balancing, juggling things. So there might be a little bit of an uptick in activity with wherever you work or whatever your day-to-day life is, pile 3. And part of your spiritual development is in how you balance things gracefully. Okay. I almost see it as you, that coming after that Eureka light bulb moment we mentioned before. Like things are going to speed up after that point. And part of your spiritual development is you learning, okay, I went from feeling like I was stuck in the background to being recognized to, you know, oh bam, now everything's like kind of coming at me at like cosmic speeds. Like, how am I going to juggle all of this? And you learning how to keep those things in balance too, with it also meaning, you know, balancing our finances. Maybe that's part of like you seeking money to accomplish something, learning to balance resources in that way as well. Okay. So I know this is technically a spiritual development type reading, but there is a lot of earth energy because of the presence of a lot of pentacles here. And so a lot of your spiritual lessons here in the next few months or so is kind of how I asked your spirit guides to come forward with timing, at least, is related to the physical material world a lot, okay? So, it might be a little bit more of a busy time, like I said. It might be a little bit more career job focused, like, we've said with multiple of the other cards. But very fruitful. Okay. After you get over that initial obstacle of finding the tools you need to manifest something with exploring your career or your job or your education here, okay? Fruitful after that point. And then it almost feels like the abundance coming in is so much that, yeah, you have that action of the, oh God, now I gotta juggle all this, right? Things coming in faster than they have before, okay? And two, with that Two of Swords reversed, it might also indicate that there's a spiritual lesson in, I know we talked about the choice before, but after that obstacle is cleared here, pile 3, it's like you needing to being next to the Four of Wands, too. There's another message of those two cards together. I know earlier I said there's something about, like, you needing to choose between celebrations. Maybe even, like, for example, one is, like, a graduation dinner versus, like, a celebration dinner for this thing or, like, this social event. I'm also seeing it as there's a lesson around you needing to choose between celebrations when it comes to different paths you can take after this eureka or this success moment, okay? It's almost like, say, just for an example, this might not apply to all of you, you have a situation where you publish, like, a scientific paper and it does really well and you get very recognized, and then you get offers for, and correct me if I'm wrong about how the process of this works if you do work in, like, a scientific field, but to my understanding, after that it's successful and then you get a lot of people asking you, hey, I want to fund you for this study or to do more on this particular topic, study this particular research more, okay? And so then you have to, like, pick between the two, like picking between celebrations. Do I take this path with this funder? Or, do I say, I'm kind of bored with this topic, even though I just had good success with it. I want to kind of maybe follow this question more, okay? And your advice in that area, though we will pull more advice cards at the end of the reading, is to follow your curiosity. So what are you most curious about when it comes to your decisions, okay? Well, so whenever you do come across an impasse of what choice to take in the next few months here with your spiritual development, pile 3, always follow where your curiosity leads, okay? Just kind of like how a raccoon would, right? Trying to figure out, well, what's in this garbage can? Or how do I open this lid on this bird feeder? Or things like that, of course. Apply that to your own life. You're probably not opening garbage cans, I assume, but a little bit of humor there. And so I think that reflects, too, in your thought card of a lot of deep thinking being needed within this next phase, okay? Regarding your choices, regarding how do I gather resources for what I need, okay? And thinking about who am I underneath the masks that I wear, like we said before. So kind of just giving you a summary of everything so far. So pretty straightforward, pile 3. Pretty straightforward reading here for you. I want to make sure I don't miss anything before I do go to your advice cards here. Because I did promise you advice for this next phase of development as well. I think you're also going to be discovering a lot about who you are as a person, pile 3. So it's not just taking off those masks. It's you realizing things that you didn't even know yet about who you are that have been hidden under the roles that you play. Because that's the thing with our material lives, is that we can get so caught up in the mundane of, get up, go to work, do your job, get home, do chores, blah, 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 things like that, that we kind of almost become robotic in a way. And we don't necessarily reflect too much on our lives, on, what is the meaning of what I'm actually doing? How does this attach or, like, relate to my soul and who I am deep down and what I want from life, things like that. And so a lot of this next phase of spiritual development is you gleaning more kernels of truth about why you're doing the things that you're doing related to who you are deep down, realizing more about who you are deep down, like I said, instead of living life quite as robotically. Like, that's what the imagery they're showing me is, like, you living like a robot. And then all of a sudden it's like you kind of click to life and you're like, oh, wait, I've just been kind of in a little bit of a fog of just trying to get by here. And then now I can finally step back and realize, oh, this is why I'm doing this, or this is who I am, or this is what I really want from life, things like that, okay? So obviously that means that the universe also is going to provide you more of an opportunity in this next phase of spiritual development for you being able to act less in a survival mode, robotic way. So there are blessings coming forward, I think, in that region as well. Okay. I think maybe with that funding we talked about, or gaining more finances to kind of fuel those things. So yeah, let's ask some advice in general too. Spirit guides for pile 3, what general advice would you give them for this next phase of spiritual development as well? With these life lessons, thank you. 3. Well, definitely that one. We have, temperance, balance in all things. Okay. We have light and dark. We have yellow and blue, it looks like, with these particular colors. Almost looks like water and fire. Looking closer. Almost yin and yang here in the imagery of the things she's holding. Not quite yin and yang. It's not black and white, but it's kind of a similar thing. So temperance, balance in all things. And then we have the 9 of Swords reversed. Let go of anxiety. Okay, so it seems like maybe there's going to be quite a lot of mental stress upon you that your spirit guides are encouraging you to let go of. And then we have the 9 of Cups, which is emotional satisfaction. Okay, so pile 3. There's a little bit of repetitiveness here. I will warn you. Let's do the repetitive part first. Okay. Like we were saying, when it came to you realizing who you are deep down and what you really want, who you are underneath the roles that you fulfill with the melting masks message. One piece of advice your spirit guides are giving you is to focus on what makes me feel emotionally satisfied with the 9 of Cups, okay? I'm trying to think. A good question to ask yourself is, and I know this is going to sound odd, but hear me out. At the end of the day, when you sit down to eat dinner or lay in bed, whatever, what accomplishments would make you feel smug if you were to think to yourself, I accomplished this today? Because that's another interpretation of the 9 of Cups. It's almost the smug card because of that emotional satisfaction of, ooh, I got what I wanted, like that kind of feeling, right? What could you accomplish in life or within your roles right now that would make you feel that way, and focus on that? They're showing me almost like a dog chasing a car, okay? Like with that very, very intense focus of, I just need to chase this thing, okay? So if you're finding yourself trying to decide things, being hesitant between choices, yes, follow your curiosity, but follow what makes you emotionally satisfied, okay? So that's kind of the repetitive part because it's related to that emotional mask thing we talked about earlier. We also have the 9 of Swords reversed, which is letting go of anxiety, okay? Please, 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 please focus on self-care in this next phase of your spiritual development, okay? I think because there's so much kind of going on, especially like a lot of, thinking, and, maybe a lot of turbulence coming after a time of achievement, like we said. Perhaps you like the example we used was like someone publishing a paper and being recognized for it in the scientific world, just as an example. It might not apply to all of you. There might be a lot of turbulence coming after that, of you having to juggle a lot of things, like we said with the 2 of Pentacles earlier, okay? So please focus on your self-care. Please focus on reducing your anxiety, okay? Please focus on, say you've been through a lot of job stress. Go get a massage if that's something that you're into and you're able to, within your means afford, right? Or, watch your favorite movie, or go see a movie that you haven't seen in a while that you really, or not, maybe you haven't seen before, but you want to go see, right? Or take a nice bath. Relax, okay? Drink some nice tea. Something calming. Please, they're warning you. Self-care with your mental health, all right, is important to this next phase. And then we have temperance, which is balance, okay? I do see that as a piece of advice for you, almost related to the roles masks message, that because of the success in your career and finances with this next phase of spiritual development, you might be finding that you're focusing a little bit too much on your career and identifying too much of yourself with who you are in that particular role. Because the lesson of temperance is balance in all things, okay? So, if you find that you've been leaning a little bit too much into your career, worrying too much about, like say it hits 5 o'clock and normally, you think, oh, well, I can go home, I can put work out of my mind, but because of everything going on, you've been more intensely focused on it. Please remind yourself, hey, it's 5 o'clock, the computer is shut off, I don't have to think about work, okay? And then focus on, say, your family or your hobbies. Balance in the different areas of your life, of your focuses, okay? And that will also help your mental stress a little bit too, because when we focus too much on our career and too much on our job, right, as we all know, that can burn us out, right? Family helps us recover and heal our hearts from stress, okay? Hobbies helps us recover and heal our hearts from stress, things like that. Self-care, things like that, okay? So please, balance in all things is another piece of advice that they have for you in this next phase of spiritual development, okay? So beautiful. I see a lot of success for you coming here, pile 3. And a lot of your spiritual development here is related to how do you handle that success and the choices and the rapid fire energy of things kind of coming at you after that success, okay? And remembering who you are underneath all of that. and connecting that with your actions and the choices that you make. So wonderful reading. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. If you liked the reading and if it resonated with you, please like and comment and subscribe to the channel if you have not done so yet. That just helps me out a little bit, which helps me provide more readings for you and others in the future. And I hope to see you in the next reading, Pile 3. Bye.